Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bamidele Richard Amire, and I'm here to share something I've done also. So I'm going to be sharing with you something I believe for us in Nigeria or in Africa generally, something that we will find very, very useful. I work for a company called NISTech Ltd. The company was actually founded in 2007, but I've been around for a while. I became a MikroTik certified trainer in 2004, and I've been around since then. In my company, we do a lot of stuff with consultancy. We are training partners to MikroTik. We run all the MikroTik training courses. We're also academic coordinator. We're Cisco internetworking experts, and we do a lot of integrations for different vendors. We have been able to conduct training in different parts of Africa, precisely in about 12 countries. We set up network and we maintain same in those networks, and we still offer technical supports in those countries. We design and implement IP networks generally. We do a lot of stuff with voice over IP, network security, quality of service control, wireless, fiber optic. We integrate multi-vendors. If you have Cisco, Juniper, MikroTik, Linux boxes in your network, and you need to get these things to talk together, you can just give us a call. We do a lot of stuff with Cisco Identity Service Engine. We do with the Mobility Service Engine. We do with Cisco Prime. I'm not here to talk about NISTech today. I'm here to share something that I find very interesting. I find it very interesting because I know that in this part of the world, it's not everybody, just like my brother that was said earlier, you can get some cheap internet solutions that do not give you public IP addresses. And you want to deploy a hotspot network quickly somewhere. You want to deploy hotspot in an estate. You want to be able to manage this from the comfort of your room or from your laptop at any point. You don't need to go after an internet solution that gives you public IP. So the solution I want to discuss is just a cheap solution that you can do with MikroTik RouterOS. This is the scenario I have. If I have this, let's assume that I have two locations in Lagos. This is an estate in VI. Probably this is another estate in Ikeja. I have these estates in Abuja. This is another estate in Abuja. I don't need to get a network that has public IP address before I set up hotspot there, and I authenticate users such that if you're in Ikeja and you want to come to VI, you get to our hotspot in VI, you can use the same login identities you have there to log in. And then from the cloud, we can also monitor all these locations. Even if I have 5 access points there, if I have 5 access points, I can have a server in the cloud that monitors all these access points, monitors the users, and my NOC strictly will reside on my laptop. So anywhere I am, once I have internet access, I can monitor, I can manage any of this site. This is the solution I have for you and it's something we have actually implemented. Using MikroTik RouterOS with CHR. Remember when Sergis was talking, he talked about CHR as one of their new products or one of their new additions to the RouterOS. So with the CHR, you actually can implement PPTP VPN between all those locations. You can set up user manager right there on the CHR in the cloud. You can set up Dude right there also on the CHR in the cloud. And with this, you simply will have a centralized AA service, and monitoring is also achieved for the remote networks without the stress of keeping any elaborate NOC anywhere. And that gives you a lot of respite because it brings down the running cost, it brings down your startup cost also. And this is the step I have. I really want to run through this quickly. The steps. Basically, I'll launch a CHR. I will use the AWS. Why did I pick the AWS? The Amazon Web Services is one of the cheapest options you can get out there right now. You don't need to go and start thinking about how to put in power, put in all stuff. In minutes, you have set up your AWS, MikroTik on your AWS, and it's up and running. And you can easily just set up PPTP server on it. install Dude there, install User Manager, and then you set up PPTP clients on the remote side. Over the PPTP network, the User Manager talks to the client talks to the User Manager. Over the PPTP network, the server can also monitor the clients that are right on it. So this is what the final solution will look like. Remember, this is what my initial network looks like. The problem is now is that if this does not have public IP and this does not have, if you keep a server somewhere in the cloud, for Radius to talk, Radius must be able to get back to that client, to the Radius client. So it becomes a problem. But with this solution, you have a CHR hosted somewhere in the cloud there. From here, once you do the PPTP tunnel into it, every user manager traffic goes through the PPTP. All the Dude traffic goes through the PPTP. Your internet traffic goes directly to the internet. So the only traffic that go to the CHR is only the user manager traffic, things that has to do with authentication and things that has to do with network monitoring. So that is the only thing that goes through there. And the steps, easy steps, straightforward. I will just quickly highlight what I have done. How to quickly set up the CHR on AWS. The CHR, just as said by the MikroTik staff, it's cloud-hosted router, and it's basically a RouterOS that is designed to run on virtual machine. Is the x86 flavor. You can run it on any hypervisor. You can run it on VMware. You can run it on VirtualBox. But the one I will be looking at, like I said, is the AWS Amazon Web Services. And for you to implement Amazon Web Services, it's quite straightforward. To implement it, there are very few steps. Let's just quickly take a look at those steps. If you want to set up the AWS, you want to use the cloud-hosted router on Amazon. If you have any Amazon account, it will do. But if you don't have one, you can simply create one. And with that, you can just go to the Amazon Web Service page and just search for CHR or search for MikroTik. It will only give you one response. When you search for it on the Amazon Web Services, search for MikroTik or CHR. It gives you one option in the marketplace there, and then you can create an instance. After creating an instance, you need to set up some security rules, because by default, the Amazon Web Service will allow only a SSH connection to the instance you have created. So you need to set up some rules to permit PPTP, to permit Winbox, to permit Dude connections, and any other connection you want to be able to make to that server at that point. So normally, this is what I have. I did some screenshots while I was creating this. If you go into the Amazon Web Services, aws.amazon.com, and you just search for cloud-hosted router, it gives you a page where you click on it, and it gives you this. So once you get in here, you want to create an instance. So you can simply just click on continue there, straightforward. And when you click continue, this is where you specify what you want. The current version that is installed there will be shown there for you. You really don't need to change it. You can always upgrade. Once you set up your instance, you can upgrade the version you have. And then the next thing is you pick region. The region makes it so flexible for you. You can pick US, you can pick Europe, and pick the part you want. As a matter of fact, that's one advantage for those of us from this part of the world. If you have a site that you are restricted from accessing, if you have an AWS instance that is hosted in US, for example, once you do your tunnel into that server and you access any other site, it's as if you are actually right there in US, and that gives you that. This costs you little or nothing. And then once you pick that, you pick the lowest here. Actually, from this service that I'm running, we pay average of about $7 thereabout. Even when there is heavy traffic through it, we pay about $7 a month max. That's the highest we've ever paid per month using it. That's the highest we've ever paid. So you pick the lowest of it. The lowest of it is T2 micro, and then I pick the 1 megabit traffic. Is free, so I don't need to buy any special license for it. Remember what Segi showed in his presentation. The 1 megabit traffic on the interface is free for you on the CHR licensing. And then once you pick that, just scroll to the base. You need to generate a key pair. The key pair is necessary for your SSH connection by default. So for you to proceed, you need to generate a key pair. So you just click on please create a key pair. Once you click on that, it gives you a page like this. You just click on create key pair. You give it a name, any name. You choose would do there. And then once you create the key, immediately you finish creating the key and you click on create. This changes to launch with one click. So the moment you click launch with one click, you come here, then you're done. All these that I've shown takes you just about 3 minutes, thereabout or less, depending on how fast your internet is. And then once you're here, you are ready to go. It says, thank you for launching your cloud-hosted router. Then you can simply click on EC2 console. And once you click on the EC2 console, it brings you into the instance. That's the instance that I've just created based on the screenshots that I made here. So on this now, that's the public IP I have now on the AWS. So normally, I can SSH into that IP now, but because AWS has some security, the key pair you created just now, you need to use it while you attempt to connect to the AWS server there. But before I go on to connect to it, I need to permit certain connections to it. By default, only SSH is allowed. And because only SSH is allowed, you need to open up some other ports. So I'll click on security groups from the side there, which you should do also if you're setting up the AWS instance. So I'll click on security group. And right there, you see the instance I just created. After clicking on security group, then I'll click on, once I click that, I'll click edit. At the point of clicking edit, I can open up all the ports. These are the ports I have open here. I have port 80 opened on IPv4. I also have it open on IPv6. I have 22 by default. That is open by default. And then I have 1723. I hope we all know what TCP 1723 is. That's that's what? That's PPTP. So you need to open up that. And apart from that, for PPTP connection to work, you must open up GRE 47. So I also open up GRE 47. And then for DUD to work, DUD uses 2210 or 2211. So I needed to open up that port also. Because I want to use Winbox, I opened up 8291. If you don't open up 8291, you will not be able to connect to the AWS instance with your Winbox. And then 443, obviously, we know what. In case I want to use SSTP, 443 comes in very handy. Nobody would want to block that ordinarily on the network, just like that was said earlier. So having done that, I just click save. And then bingo, I'm ready to go. My instance is ready. So I can simply either connect to it using the SSH. If I'm using SSH, like I said, you have to use the key pair that you created earlier. But in my own case, I don't need SSH for this purpose. But I would not block it because of if I have other issues later. So I'll just simply close this and then I'll launch my Winbox. And right there, my AWS instance is up and running. With that, I've created my cloud-hosted router and it's up there. And like I said, in 3 minutes, this is up and running. So once you have that, the next thing you need to do is, I'll set up PPTP server. And remember the basic step for setting up PPTP server, I think we've had that today also. Modify a profile. Create or modify a profile is just in 3 steps if you are setting up PPTP server. For those who are not conversant with it, but for those who have been using it, you create or modify a profile, one of the PPP profiles that are already there. And then you create user. This is the key thing there. With what I want to show, this is the key thing. You need to create the users and then add route for the remote LANs. Add route for the remote LAN. While creating the PPP secret, you add route for the remote LAN. Then you enable the server. All you need to do to enable the server is just a click. So once you click in there, I'm still going to show that. And then if you want to be able to reach the internet through it, probably you want to use it for some other private use. You want to be able to tunnel into the AWS instance and access the internet. Then you need to create a bridge so that you can attach some address to it, and then you use that as a local address, and then you can reach out if you need that. But that's optional. If you're strictly using it for what I'm describing here, you can afford to leave that out. So this is what I did there for creating the PPTP server. The first thing there is I modified or I created a profile, and you can see I specified a local address there. I created a pool for the range of addresses that will be assigned to users as they connect to locations, not users now, to different locations as they connect. I created a pool there, and then I enabled the server. That's all I needed to do, and then I selected the profile that I just created. I selected the profile there. And that was all I needed to do in terms of enabling the PPTP server. And in this particular case, I created 2 users, one for the Lagos router and another for the Abuja router. For the Lagos router, I just created PPP secret. I believe we all know how to go through that. PPP, once you click on PPP there, it brings up a table for you. You click on secret, and then you click add. That brings up this, and then I placed in the username, the password, the service, and then the profile that I've just created, the profile there. And then, because these are sites I do not want their IP addresses to change. Normally, if I'm not particular about IP, I can afford to leave this space. But then because I want Abuja to always have that IP, I needed to specify the IP address in there. So I specified the local address, which is an address on this AWS, and then a remote address. And then the route. That means the Abuja network is going to run on 192.168.199.0/24. The Lagos network is going to run on 192.168.200.0/24. I just added those routes like that, so that once this connects, a route is added automatically to the AWS router for this subnet. And that was all I needed to do in terms of PPTP server. I installed the user manager on it. By default, it is in it, but then I needed to upgrade. It is not in it, so you needed to upgrade the OS in order to have user manager in it, and dude also. So I upgraded the stuff, and then I believe everybody, for those who wants to do this, you must at least know how to set up user manager. This particular presentation is not for how to set up user manager, but basically, all you need to do is create a router, add a router in there, create profiles, and then create users inside the user manager. And those are just the steps. I just did an export there so that you can see what I did inside the user manager. And so that is set up. I also installed Dude. I installed Dude on the AWS. All this comes in seconds. You have very good internet to the AWS. So you are actually not using the internet on your system. The AWS is connected directly to the internet. So I install all that, and then I can connect to the Dude from any system using the IP address on the AWS. And this is what I have with the Dude. I have the Dude set up to monitor APs, access points at those 2 locations, to monitor switches at those locations. Remember, those locations do not have public IP address. They are connected to the internet with all stuffs. And then I can still monitor them effectively. So on the client side, on those remote sites, all I needed to do is have internet connection anyhow. Anyhow I want to have it. It could be 3G dongle. It could even be just putting SIMs on the WAP LTE. If you have the WAP LTE, you just put in the SIM there, you deploy it right there. Or if you have MTN, like in Nigeria, you have the MTN LTE modems. You have any of these modems, you just deploy it on site. So the most important thing is get internet to that remote site. Once you have internet, if you want to do hotspot for the users, set up your hotspot. This is also not a class where we discuss how to set up hotspot, but setting up hotspot is quite straightforward. Just go to IP hotspot and then click setup. Once you have IP configured, in minutes or in seconds, you're done with hotspot setup. Or if you choose to use PPPoE for your users, set up PPPoE. And then configure PPTP client to connect to the AWS. And then set up the Radius client also using the private IP of the AWS now. That's the local address that you set up in the profile on the AWS. Using that as the IP you are connecting to from the Radius. I will still show that on my own router here. So, and then configure hotspot and PPPoE to use Radius. Set interim updates. That's important. Set interim update. Anytime you do all these stuffs, interim update is very important. So that's a bit about that. And this is what I have on the client side. I just did a screenshot. On the client side, I set up PPTP client. That's the IP address of the AWS. I'm doing a tunnel to the AWS from this particular router. Remember, the IP address on the AWS is really not significant in this case, because it could be any IP. It could be public IP. It could be private IP. It could be an IP that changes even after every reboot. It doesn't matter in this case. So I put in that, and then obviously I'm using encryption. So I pick default encryption. That's the username and password created on the PPP secret there. And then I made sure under hotspot now, I have hotspot set up. I made sure that I have use radius ticked. And then for radius clients here, I have PPP and hotspot. And then I'm using the 10.233.233.1, which is the private IP that I just added to the AWS, because normally the AWS has only one IP and is a private IP actually. Amazon does something like a DST NAT from a public IP to that private IP. So I'm using the private IP on the AWS, not the public IP for the radius clients that I configured on this. And that's all I have on this apart from that. And once Lagos connects to the AWS, this is the AWS. Once Lagos connects, you see a new route there that looks like this for Lagos route. And when Abuja connects also, you see another route that looks like this. So that means I have two routes for the two locations, one for Lagos, one for Abuja. And with this, that means the AWS, from the AWS, I can reach the private networks behind Lagos. I can reach the private network behind Abuja router at any point in time. And that gives me all I want to do. I can even use Dude to monitor it. Based on what I did there, Dude shows me something like that looks like this. Monitoring, connecting to Dude from my system gives me something that looks like this. And that's just the magic in this, because now if a user that is in Lagos, probably in one estate in Lagos, let's assume I have this set up in Parkview Estate in Lagos, and a user connects there. If he gets into Abuja and he sees my signal, my SSID, straight away he can connect from Abuja also using his username and password, and he'll be able to connect. If he leaves there and goes to anywhere, in short, anywhere he sees my SSID or anything that indicates that is my network, then he can connect without any stress. With all this, my NOC resides in the cloud. I have my system to just simply connect to the AWS, see whatsoever is happening at any point in time. And that's just what I have. And if I have, let's now assume that in Abuja, we have a file server there that we want clients to access. Even with what I have set up, I can keep a file server in Abuja, and clients that are connected to my network from anywhere can access that file server without any stress, because all what I have done now is simply to make sure that any traffic going to that private network where the file server is goes through the PPTP tunnel on their remote router, and at any point in time they will be able to access this. And that's just the bit about setting up all this. And at the end of the day, I have a network like this such that users can leave Lagos, go to Abuja, and be able to use it without me having public IP addresses on any of the router. They can move from one location to anywhere and be able to use their same username, because the username and password now resides in the cloud. The Dude server resides there, and I can monitor any of the location. If a router or an access point goes down at any of this location, I can simply know that by just getting connected to the AWS server with my Dude client from my system at any point in time. And that's the bit about what I have to offer in terms of this. I'm trying to keep to time. Thank you so much. But before I leave, I would love to do a quick demo. I would love to do a quick demo just for us to see it work, so that it won't look as if Dele just did some screenshots and then he decides to bamboozle us here with it. So I'll just simply bring up a small router that I have here. I'll use my phone as a source of internet for it. So, and you know what it means. I'm just going to share hotspot from my phone to the router. And with that, anyone who connects, I'll show you the config I have in there. I'll probably just log into the AWS to show you what I have on the AWS server, since I still have about 7 minutes. So I'll just try and do that quickly. Let me just bring up. Sorry, that's a virtual machine in my Mac. Relax now. Okay, sorry. Sorry, that's not part of the configuration. Okay, let me just see if I can see the box. Okay. Oh, okay. That's a holder. Okay, this is supposed to be a client router. I configured this and called it Abuja. This is supposed to be the Abuja router, and this is all I have there. Normally, if you look at the interface list, I have, that's the PPTP connection. Right now, my wireless is connected to my phone. Let me show you that so that we don't feel it's something else. My wireless is connected to my phone. My SSID is Awesome God, but I'm using Connect List, so I can just check status for us to see that. I have that. It's connected to my phone. My phone is Awesome God. That's what I call the SSID there. So it's connected, and if you look at the interface list right now, the WLAN is connected. PPTP is also connected immediately. Let me show you what I have in the PPTP connection. I have this dialing to the AWS, to the public IP address of the AWS. I configured the user. Abuja is the username. Abuja is also the password. Default encryption. I'm not adding default route because I'm not browsing through it. I only want to access the user manager through it and then the dude through it. So I left that out and then clicked OK. So that's what I have on the in the client side. And then I have set up hotspot. Like I said, if you look at IP hotspot, I have hotspot set up already, and apart from that, I have what I said there. I enabled use radius there, and then interim update. So those are important. And then on the radius here, I configured this using the private IP on the AWS. I'm going to show you what I have in the AWS. By the way, if you want to log in into this just to copy out what I have or look at it yourself, maybe when you get connected to my Wi-Fi, you can check that. I have a user created on it that anyone can use. So that's what I have here. So automatically, this is the PPTP is up and running, and then my service is just up there for you. But let me show you what I have in the AWS so that everyone just would be able to appreciate what I have there. Oh, there's no internet on this yet. Okay, let me log in. Okay, that user is actually on the AWS. The user I just used to log in into the hotspot is on the AWS. So now let me try to connect to the AWS just to show you what I have in there. Connection is probably slower than I expect. Ooh. Let me just connect directly to my Oh, sorry, that's getting a different IP. Okay, I think I have an IP now. Okay. Okay. Connecting to this is the AWS instance, and this is what I have there. I have the PPTP server. Those are the connections. Right now I have another router in the class and within the class, and it's the Lagos router. You can see that it's also connected. That's the PPTP Lagos is also connected, and the PPTP Abuja. This is what I have under the secret. I created, you can see that I use it for some other stuff. I created the secret for the Abuja. That's the screenshot you saw earlier. And I created for Lagos also. That's the screenshot you saw earlier also. And then on the profile, just like what I said I have here, that's it there. The pool is created. And I have user manager installed. I have Dude configured there. I can launch Dude client from here to connect to it. I can launch Dude client to connect to it straight away. So basically from here, if I check the user manager is located on that 54.this/userman. And that's the user manager on the AWS. And the Dude, I think the Dude is connected now. Okay, the Dude is still getting stuff. I probably have a very slow link from here right now. So the Dude needs to pull down the content there. The Dude says getting stuff. Probably when that comes up, we'll see it. So those are users I have created. I logged in with mom1 and password mom1 just now. So with this, I can set up, I can freely deploy any hotspot network anywhere without struggling to have a public IP, without struggling about the source of internet. I can even have multiple sources of internet there. It doesn't matter the IP I get. It doesn't matter if it's fixed, as in static. It doesn't matter if it's public or private. Once I decide to deploy it, all I need to be able to do is be able to tunnel to the AWS, and I'm up and running. Thank you so much for your time. Any question, comment? Any question, comments?